This is one of the rear stiles for the upper case of the cupboard. And remember, these are the oddball shaped pieces. I have one kicking around here somewhere. So one of the challenges is how to hold it to chop mortises in it. And all I've come up with so far is just cut a notch in 2 pieces of scrap wood and prop it up here with a holdfast. The game is to get it so that this face is plumb, and then that one is 90 degrees to it. This is pitched a little bit high. I can plane some of that off after mortising. And as long as it's pretty close, I'll be able to get what I need out of there. It doesn't have to be perfect, but it does have to hold still. It's a little bit of a challenge. What I'm finding is that it's a little bit high for mortising, and as a consequence of these little cradles, I have to sort of hold the mortise chisel a little more vertical than usual, just because it was knocking it loose. My usual posture. They're not terribly large mortises. This one's 2 inches long at the top, and the one at the bottom is 2.5 inches long. So I wouldn't want to chop all my mortises this way, but I can chop a few of them, and then I'll need to figure out another method for holding this style to plow the panel groove between them, because clearly the holdfast is in the way for that. But one thing at a time. Now I'm chopping the mortises for the front stiles for the upper case, and because they're a different shape from the rear stiles, they need a different cradle. This time I made it out of a little bit thicker stock. This case about 2-inch thick oak. The previous one was just white pine at a 4/4 or 5/4. So just like before, the idea is to prop it so that that front face is plumb. My sawing was not the best, so I've got a couple of shims to put under that back face to try to prop this up where it belongs. And then I'll grab it with the holdfast as close to this edge as I can, because it was wanting to cock it over that way. And that's right on. This is real close. So if you are a sloppy jig maker like me, you can just adjust it by shimming that sort of stuff, and just check it to make sure that it's close to what you need. You can always adjust with your chisel if that face is canted a little bit. You just try to line your chisel up with that face, and you'll probably get close enough with this sort of thing, in case you ever have to mortise something as weird as this. I can use the same cradle setup with a holdfast to hold this style for the panel groove that I used for the mortising. And you just want a holdfast with a very low beak like that, so it doesn't bump into the arms of the plow plane. I bring it down to about 1/2 inch, and then I call it quits. And so that has a ways to go. Same thing applies to the rear style. The same cradle that I held it in for mortising, I can do the panel groove in the same setup. This particular style had some very curved grain right here, curved fibers. And so I've taken a very sharp marking gauge and scored the edges of that groove ahead of plowing it to try to facilitate that plow plane sliding in there easily. Like that. Now I just have to extend it beyond my mortises to be able to get the full depth right at the mortises, just so the skate of the plane can ride beyond here so the iron can hit here. Like that. Not quite deep enough. And that's right at 1/2 inch. So I'll finish the end of it. There's one more mortise to go in this rear style, and this is that strange shaped one with the 5 sides there. So this plane that's now defined with these upper and lower rails coming up here, that's the side of the upper case, this cupboard. This is the top of the style. And from here will be a rail coming from this plane, running like that. And this is the side of an overhanging cornice that then sails out beyond this cupboard front here. So the next thing to do with this style is to remove a notch here so I can chop a mortise in there and then cut the tenon on this piece and drop it in place. So I'll show you once I figure out how, I'll show you how I'm going to remove that notch, and then mortising it and tenoning it is nothing but mostly just making the space to do so. I've marked out just with a pencil, that's where the notch is that's going to come out of there. That much, and then running down here to a height of 4 3/8 of an inch. So all that is going to come out. So I can then chop a mortise in this surface that will run down here. I'm going to try to get the first part of it by just sawing a bit of a notch that will have to angle it, because I don't want to extend into there. And I don't want to hit that hold fast. So up here, there's going to be more chisel work to get rid of that. Down here, it'll be pretty straightforward. So for starters, I'll do the easy part. I'm working, in this case, with this bevel down. and just chopping out what I was able to cut with the saw. Send chips flying here. So that's the easiest part of it, and now I'm just going to take the chisel and drive the corner of it into that angled surface to start to make a sort of stop cut. I'll switch it around. I should have the back of the chisel, the flat side, to me, and the bevel into the waist. And I'm staying just above my line right now. Now trying to come down there as well. And I think at this stage I'll flip it over onto this surface and work from here. Drop that down a little. Now I don't need the cradle so much. Don't need it at all. So just scoring those long fibers there. And then removing that stock. And then repeat it. I'm staying outside my layout, and then I'll do the refinement when I've got the shape roughed out. This surface isn't terribly important. It's going to be behind this rail that comes in here. This is the important one. I need to create a real sharp arris right there, because that's where the tenon will, the mortise will be in here, so the tenon shoulder will meet right there, and that's what needs to be dead flush. This needs to be out of the way, and pretty much that's all. So that's close. I have that marked. That's the top of the cupboard. And need to make a corresponding mark for that bottom. So there's still 1/8 of an inch to remove it. But I'm going to work on this part next. Now I want to define that shoulder. And I've set this marking gauge at 1 7/8, which is what I'm after. And made a nice strong slice in there. So that will give me a target there. And I've switched to a narrower chisel to chop this end grain here. A little easier to get at it. So I'm sneaking up to that baseline and now putting the chisel pretty much right in it. Like that. And along here, I'm going to use this thin-bladed paring chisel. Maybe no, I'm not. That's still a little too thin. So I'll take the bulk of it out with this a 1/2 inch chisel, I guess. 5/8. Just trying to remove the excess material. And here I'm in wood that has a high moisture content again. This piece I planed back easily more than a month ago, and its surfaces are pretty dried, but it's such a large, thick, bulky thing that when you get down into the middle of it, it's still got a lot of moisture in it. Now the paring chisel. And still not at my line. Now, right in it. And I think that'll be it. So now I'll cut the mortise in here and the tenon in that. and then just dummy it back together to show you the way that all fits. So here's the update of this tour to show you how that cornice rail joins its rear stile and how it relates to the rest of it. So the rear stile on its back, the side of the cupboard coming this way, there'll be a panel in here with applied decoration on it, and then an applied turning on this stile and on that front stile. The door will be out here. And now this is the mortise I just chopped and the tenon to go with it. I had a difficult time getting the bottom of the mortise all the way down to the shelf without really damaging that little notch I made. So I quit and just cut a stub off the bottom of the tenon. But the cornice rail goes in like this. Ultimately gets 2 pins. I haven't bored the holes for those yet, but they'll be pinned drawboard joint right there. So it's starting to visually, I hope, make a little more sense. I know if you're not familiar with these cupboards, this all seems very strange, but little by little it's going to start to make more sense.